Welcome back. A Carleton University professor who teaches journalism said world leaders like Prime Minister Harper should not be using or describing the deadly attacks on Paris that killed 12 people as barbaric. What should we call it? Boo-boos? A bad day? I have no idea. John Robson joins us in Ottawa this morning. Good to have you, sir.
Good morning.
Professor Karim says when the word is used to condemn religiously motivated acts of violence, that I guess some religious groups interpret them to mean that they as a whole are barbaric. I mean, if you're wondering why our business is going the way it is, it's being taught.
Yeah, I do think so. And I think, for instance, the New York Times reporting last night that people were still trying to figure out the motive.
Yeah.
The CBC actually reported that this morning in one of their stories. People are still puzzled what the motive is. And they burst in shouting Allahu Akbar. They say Muhammad is avenged.
It was money. The motive was obviously money. I mean, it's very clear.
Buddhists? Is this Rotarians here? And the professor's point was that if you use language like barbaric, you make people think there's a clash of civilizations. He was not defending the action. He called it cruel and violent. But at some point, you need to acknowledge that there is a clash of civilizations going on, and there are plenty of people within the Muslim world who are trying to take their religion back from these people. That must also be acknowledged. This remarkable speech that the president of Egypt gave on January 5th at Al-Azhar University, one of the preeminent centers of Muslim learning, and he said this way of thinking, this political kind of Islam, is antagonizing the entire world. How is it possible that the Muslim world is becoming a source of fear and devastation to the rest of the world? So he was flatly acknowledging this is happening, and he said, we need a revolution in our religion. And he looked straight at these imams and he said, you are responsible before God for what you teach. So the president of Egypt can say it, I can say it. That we know when these attacks occur, we know why it is happening, and we know the people who do it are not killing the journalists at Charlie Hebdo because they criticized radical Islam. This isn't radical Islam defending itself. It wouldn't have been okay if they just criticized Islam generally. Nor are they killing them because they criticized Islam instead of singling out radical Islam. They're killing them because they insulted the Prophet. And you see these signs in demonstrations in London, England. Behead those who insult the Prophet. And so it is very clear that there are a large number of people in the Muslim world who do believe, for instance, you take polls, should renouncing the Islamic faith be punishable by death? A surprising number of people, in many countries, majorities, say yes. Well, in this country, nobody thinks, except you know who, that anybody should be executed for renouncing their faith, whether they give up Christianity, Catholicism, Protestantism, I don't care what it is, whether they renounce Buddhism, whether they give up being a Confucian, whether they renounce Islam. So there's a clash of civilizations between people who think that anybody who gives up the Islamic faith should be killed and people who think that's not so. There's a clash of civilizations between people who think that the journalists at Charlie Hebdo should be killed because they publish offensive cartoons and people who don't. And remember, Charlie Hebdo insulted everyone. I mean, I find their brand of thinking nihilistic. It depresses me. But nobody ever thought they'd be killed because they insulted Francois Hollande. Nobody ever thought they'd be killed because they insulted the Pope. We all know what's going on here. The only thing I would say about calling it barbaric, we might get letters from barbarians saying, sure, we invaded, we burned Rome, but we never behaved like this.
Yeah, look, they were pains in the butts to a lot of people in life, and now they are heroes of freedom of speech. I mean, that's their death, and their legacy will be that they were heroes for saying what no one else will say. And there will be those of us who stand up for them, and there will be those like this professor who I can't even imagine what his lessons are like. I would be the worst student in his class.
Not for long, I don't think.
Yeah, well, no, but he'll stay.
Yeah, he'll stay, though. You would have left. But, and the other thing, there's all these people saying, Je suis Charlie, and I'm glad people are standing up for this. But the fact is, what Charlie Hebdo did was mock Islam. And if you are Charlie at this point, you need to be willing to criticize Islam, show the cartoons as this network did. Otherwise, this is cheap. This is not real heroism. And I'm going to say it right out. I have read the Quran. I do not find it convincing. I find large parts of it offensive. I do not think this is the word of God. I do not admire Muhammad prophet, and I do not call him the prophet. So there you have it, okay? Je suis Charlie. I am willing to criticize Islam, all Islam. I don't want to be rude to Muslims. I understand that that faith makes many people better. They believe it is in keeping with God's will, and they would make a rational defense of it, and we can talk about it. But in the face of these killings, you need to be able to stand up and say, as I did, I was writing for Western Standard back when Ezra published those cartoons, and I wrote for the Ottawa Citizen, which didn't. I wrote a column and said, we should publish them now, not because we want to be offensive, but to show that we will not be intimidated.
Sure.
And you're not Charlie if you don't do that, because that's what Charlie Hebdo did. And anybody who says, no, 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 you can't show those cartoons because it would insult Muslims. You could show cartoons that insult Christians, Buddhists, anything, but not Muslims, then yes, there's a clash of civilizations and you're on the wrong side of it.
Yeah, well, he wants heinous, violent, and cruel to be the new words we use. I've got to leave it there.
They're good. I mean, yes, use all of those, but don't stop there. And if barbaric is insulting to barbarians, call it Islamist, because we're always looking for some insult that will adequately describe this. Maybe calling it Islamist is the ultimate insult.
Yeah, interesting. All right, we'll see what the fallout is on this. John, thanks very much.
Thank you.